Boys, welcome back to Today in Combat and welcome back to a fantastic week in the world of sports. The NFL draft is going down this weekend, as well as UFC Kansas City. Of course, we're going to talk about that, but come on. I'm a sucker for the draft, and I've been getting jacked up. I'm talking jacked up on mock drafts. As a Raiders fan, we got an early pick. It's looking like Ashton Genty's coming our way, which I'm not mad at. The Boise State bad boy, come on. But it could not be. We could be going O-line. We could be going freaking Shedeur Sanders. Who knows what's going to happen? That's the fun part of the draft. It's just the whole freaking madness of it. And I want to hear your favorite team and who you're rooting for. Who you want to get. Do you need a linebacker? You need some defensive help? Are you looking for the big boys at O-line? You getting a playmaker? You getting Tedero McMillan? Who you getting? Who you getting? I want to know your favorite team, the player you want. Drop it in the comments. But that's not what we're here for. You know what we're here for. This is Today in Combat, and there's a fucking massive fight going on this weekend. I mean massive. And let's not forget, a lot of puzzle pieces had to play out for this to come to fruition. We're headed to UFC Kansas City in a TKO takeover weekend. They got the PBR there. They got the WWE, but nothing bigger in my mind than Ian Garry versus Carlos Prates. A fucking fantastic fight. A fantastic fight. And Vegas agrees. Opened at, I don't know, minus 105, minus 110 on both sides, both favorites. Since then, swelled up a little bit for Ian Garry. He is, what'd I say? Minus 130, plus 110 Carlos Prates. What a fantastic fight. Like, just truthfully, if you go into the welterweight division and go like, what would just be fun? What would be a fun fight that we could get into right now? I think Ian Garry, Carlos Prates is right up there. Right up there. I'm going to take a quick peek and see if I can't think of anything else. It's this combination. It's these two guys. These are the stars of your division. You got guys like Bilal Muhammad at the helm. You got guys like Sean Brady, Shavkat, Jack Della, even to a certain extent, Joaquin Buckley. Make no mistake, number 7, Ian Macho Garry, and number 13, Carlos Prates draw the most eyeballs. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not. These are two bad motherfuckers in the welterweight division. Two guys that are game as could be. A very dangerous fight for one Ian Garry, taking on a heavy hitter like Carlos Prates. Carlos Prates, seemingly nothing to lose except for that perfect KO streak he's on. Going from 13 to 7, from Jeff Neal at 10 to Ian Macho Garry. It could have been a really fantastic. One thing that I was hoping for, but we're not really getting, is the Battle of Brazil, the Battle of Sao Paulo. You got Shoot the Box versus the Fighting Nerds. And I know these guys respect each other a lot. There's no real beef, I don't believe. But it would have been the first time that we saw these two gyms go head-to-head in the UFC. So I was really excited about that, but it doesn't look like Ian Garry is training. Not that it doesn't look like. I know he's not training at Shoot the Box, and I don't think that he's going to have Diego Lima and Charles Olivera in his corner, but I could be wrong. But that could have been a fantastic story. I'm just throwing that out there. That could have been a fantastic storyline. Let's start with Carlos Prates. Let's start with the freaking bad man on the rise. Let's start with the guy that had 4 KOs last year. Carlos Prates shot his way into the UFC. The nightmare as he goes by. Because this guy is just the definition of fucking swagger. Smokes cigarettes. He fucking drinks, parties, does the whole fucking thing. And then on the weekends, he puts people's lights out for fun. That is Carlos Prates. Just babyface of all babyface. You cannot not love Carlos Prates just because it really is. There's an air about him. There's a swagger. He's got that. I also do love Brazilians that get the big fake fucking teeth, and it seems like the whole Fighting Nerd team has done it, as well as Charles Olivera. They get just big pearly whites, man. That feels like the first investment when the boys start making money. And it brings a new level of swag to them. I don't know about it, but I'm just saying. Carlos Prates, great set of teeth on the boy. I'll say that first and foremost. But let's fuck his outward appearance. Let's talk about what he's done since entering the UFC. First of all, just like every other Fighting Nerd, kind of came through the Contender Series, got a big knockout on the Contender Series, and then it didn't stop there. Trevin Giles, Charles Radke, Zhilin Zhang, and then Neil Magny. KO, 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 KO. I mean, the guy is on certified fire right now, and he's different than a lot of the welterweights that we've seen walking up these rankings, because welterweight is one of those divisions where it's kind of been ruled by wrestlers for a long time now. If you just think back to the lineage of it, you think back to, of course, Bilal Muhammad, who's at the helm right now. We had a little break with Leon Edwards, but Kamaru Usman before that, Tyron Woodley before that, GSP, the list goes on and on of just welterweight wrestlers ruling the land here. Carlos Prates is not that. He is a knockout artist through and through. He's got that long, skinny body, those snappy hands, that snappy jab, and a nasty fucking knee. A nasty knee. But this weekend, we get to find out how good Carlos Prates is. Because Ian Macho Garry is steps above his previous opponents. He's a guy that's in the hunt for the belt himself. He's a bad motherfucker. And he offers a different sort of dynamic than I think Carlos is used to. He hasn't really been tested on his grappling. It's not something that he's really had to force. He had a little bit of a grappling exchange with Neil Magny. He had some clinch work here and there. And he looked serviceable in it. As Ian has progressed in his UFC career, it feels like he's leaned more and more on that grappling, at least in his last two fights. When he's in an undesirable matchup or doesn't feel like he can get off on the feet, he's not scared to go to the ground. He did it with MVP, who's a very unique, kind of similar body type to Carlos, but a different fighting style. I think MVP is an anomaly, just a hard motherfucker to deal with. Ask Shara Bullet, even ask Ian Garry. He's a hard guy to strike with. But then we even saw it with Shavkat. He didn't have the usual output that we saw in previous fights on the feet, in those two fights at least, which is his two most recent, So obviously there's a bigger sample size of that, where he was beating the shit out of Neil Magny. He was putting it on Jeff Neal to a certain extent, although that fight was very close. Head kick Daniel Rodriguez. It just feels like Carlos Prates isn't a guy you want to take too much time on the feet with. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ian Garry does lean on that wrestling, if he does lean on that clinch work, if he does try to bring this to the ground. But if it does stay on the feet, man, there's not many people that crack like Carlos Prates. There's not many people. I mean, to the point where people are debating whether Neil Magny faked his death, quite literally. I mean, got KO cold. It didn't even look like he touched him. And it seems to be a fighting nerd specialty, because Mauricio Rufy did the same thing to Bobby Green. Strikes are so goddamn smooth that barely even looks like it touches him. And that's what makes this team, and that's what makes Carlos Prates so special, is because he's not one of those, big beefy power punchers. He fucking hits like a whip. It's a snap and you're just dead. It's so quick. It's like getting a 95-mile-per-hour fastball to the chin. So it's fun to watch. And Ian Garry, he's been cracked before. Shavkat landed some big blows on him early in that fight. We saw him get dropped back in the day by Song something or another. Dropped in the first round against Kenan Song. Recovered well. Didn't really even show a backstep against Shavkat. He can be cracked. He's not unhittable. Same is true for Carlos Prates. Not unhittable. And Ian Garry in his own right, he's got some nasty striking. He's got some really nice, crisp striking. He uses really good kicks, long kicks. He also loves kicking people's knees out, which is not my favorite technique, but I'm sure it's effective. He does a nice straight stabbing kick right to the knee, and Carlos Prates is on Bambi legs, dog. I think that knee can be taken advantage, but he also has a really nice snappy high kick. You assume Carlos has the advantage on the feet, but I'm not so sure with the way that Ian's able to use his length with those kicks. Much more effective with his kicks this fight than I think he will be with his hands. Let's see, how tall is Carlos Prates? Ian Garry's 6'3". Carlos is 6'1". So not a huge difference. And Carlos is also, he comes from a Muay Thai background. He's like 80, 90 pro fights, whatever he did in Muay Thai. He's so calm on the feet. He's patient. And when he gets into that flow state, if he's got you hurt like he did with Jiling, like he did with the Leech, It's like he's playing basketball out there. It's like he's Kyrie Irving on the court. Just fucking crossover, bang, bang to the head. Follows you over, bang, bang to the head. Dead. A special character, a special fight. This one is fucking awesome. It just is. It's an awesome fight. The odds are close. You know, I'm not going to say I like both these fighters. I like them actually a lot. I say Ian Garry probably has the more ways to win than Carlos Prates does. But it's going to be hard not to root for Carlos Prates. Let's be honest about it. He's got that sort of swagger to him. He's so fucking cool. It's going to be hard when the fight is on and I'm watching. It's going to be hard not to root for Carlos Prates. I'll say that. And I love Ian Garry. I'm not an Ian Garry hater. But Carlos is so fucking cool. The fighting nerds are on such a streak right now. That team seems untouchable. I'm not sure. I made a video a couple weeks ago kind of parsing out the welterweight division, setting up the lineage for the next title shot. I'm not so sure now that Shavkat is a shoot for the welterweight title. I'm not. And that's not even including the fact that Islam's hanging over the bounce. We'll talk about him a little bit later, and Ilia apparently being on 317. We'll talk about that. But not even including Islam, it doesn't feel like Shavkat. You know, there's been so much time between that 310. So much has happened between his last fight and I think, what was it, late November? Sean Brady got a massive win over Leon Edwards, and now we have this fight, Carlos Prates, Ian Garry. If one of these guys makes a statement, like a real statement, a knockout fast by Carlos Prates or Ian Garry on the flip side, I don't see why not. I don't see why you couldn't put one of these guys in. Like I said, they're the biggest stars in your division. You want to get them into that title picture. You want them to be your champion because they draw eyeballs. They're that fun. Now, if you just are like, who deserves it? The answer is probably not them. Fuck, it's probably Sean Brady. But just from pure star power, here's your stars, and they're fighting 2 weeks before your champions do. Before Jack Della Maddalena, before Bilal Muhammad. You know, it is, what have you done for me lately in this sport? It just is the sport that we're in. What have you done for me lately? And if one of these guys makes a big statement, I'm not saying it'll happen. I'm just saying the next challenger for this welterweight title could be fucking anybody. I've said it once, I'll say it again. It's the year of the welterweights. This division is on fucking fire and could possibly have Islam entering it, which just makes it even more fun. I fucking love this fight. It is fantastic. One thing I don't love, what is Ian Garry doing with this trash talk? He just makes it so hard to root for him. He makes it so fucking hard. It doesn't have to be this hard, but he likes to pick the worst scab there is. Like something that's impossible to get behind. With Carlos Prates, he's talking about how he's a quitter. The fight that he's referring to was 13 years ago. 13 years ago. Since then, it's been a knockout fest for Carlos Prates. He also said that he's got Brazil on his side. The fuck you do, guy. I love you. I want to root for you. But the fuck you do. And it's not the first time that I think he's made a mistake in his trash talk. It's also with like Neil Magny, talking about how Neil hit his kid or something like that.
I have to go to Neil. Neil, I'm curious what you think when you hear
No.
this.
Neil's not answering the question. He's gonna sit there and he's gonna be fucking quiet. Nobody, there is no fucking right to ever put your hand on a kid, ever discipline anything.
You want to play victim so bad, bro.
Mate, you're a father. You never lay your fucking hands on a child ever.
You know exactly.
Yesterday you said.
For a fact I'll never put a hand on a
Yesterday
child.
you said I'm a father. I've been accustomed to that type of beating.
Yeah, dude.
And I'm gonna whoop that ass on Saturday.
And then when we had Jeff Neal, he printed out a picture of his mugshot and made a t-shirt. It's like, how am I'm trying to root for you. I want to. Everything in my soul says, Ian Garry, let's fucking go. Like, he just picks the worst scab. You know, it could be anything else. Make fun of, I don't know. Make fun of, I don't know. I don't know what you should do. But Ian's a good talker. It's not like he's a bad talker. He's got an incredible self-belief about him. The words that come out of his mouth, it'll get you fired up. He's got that it factor when it comes to speaking. He just hasn't nailed the trash talk yet. He just hadn't nailed it. We need somebody in there giving him some better things to go after so the fans can ride with you, dog. I'm not going to jump on a Neil Magny hits his kids bandwagon, dog. I'm just not. I'm not. It's uncomfortable, and he's a nice fucking guy from all I know. So I wish, as Ian progresses in this division, if he does, let's just find some new things. Let's find some better things, some topics, something funny maybe. Doesn't have to be so serious. Let's get something funny in there. Carlos Prates is a quitter? Sure. Back in, let's see, May 13th of 2012 against Rafael Nunez, Carlos Prates is a quitter. He's now on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 fight KO streak. You know, I can't get behind this. I also do find it ironic that the other person that got this sort of criticism was his own teammate in Charles Olivera. And we saw how that worked out for the guys that were preaching it. Michael Chandler, Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, KO, fucking sub. So you think he'd know. You think he would have learned. You think Carlos would have been like, or you think Charles would have been like, hey man, people change, people evolve. That was 13 years ago. You can find something better. Let's get something better for you, huh? He's got to have some inside beef on one Carlos Prates. He used to train at Shoot the Box. We could have found something a little bit better. But no, that's Ian Garry for you. He's one of those guys that I think needs to be mad at you. He needs to be angry at you. He needs a reason to be pissed off. That's what gets him off. He's got that sort of Michael Jordan mentality when it comes to fighting, which, you know, seems to have worked. He's a bad motherfucker. Only loss he's taken in not only his UFC career, but his fighting career has been to one Shavkat Rakhmonov on short notice. A bad dude and a serious problem for Carlos Prates. As much as I love the nightmare Carlos Prates, a serious fucking problem. A big step up. And not a step up that he was supposed to take. Let's remember that. It was supposed to be Jeff Neal after Neil Magny. The same sort of progression that Ian Garry took himself. Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, MVP. Short notice against Shavkat. He was supposed to fight Joaquin Buckley. We're going to get that same progression from Carlos Prates here. Neil Magny, Jeff Neal, probably somebody else. And then, you know, maybe a Joaquin Buckley or something like that. That would have been fucking awesome too. Fun fight. Doesn't matter though. A fun fight card. There's a couple other good fights on this card. Nothing crazy. It's not an overwhelmingly stacked card. We have a Anthony Smith retirement fight against Zhang Ming Yang. He's who's a minus 520 favorite. The UFC loves doing this. And Anthony Smith has been a spoiler before to the likes of, who was it? Petrino, big KO artist. He subbed him in the first round. But Zhang Ming Yang is on a 11 fight win streak. All first round finishes, 9 of them by KO, 2 by sub. A tough fucking matchup. We also have Giga Chikadze, David Onama. That's a fun fucking fight. A fun fight. Giga, the underdog in that. I think he's sneaky. He could sneaky take the shine here. That's a good. I'd throw a couple dollars on that because Giga just had a very competitive fight. Split decision against Arnold Allen. He's a bad boy. He's a bad boy. Only slipped up twice in the UFC. Once to Arnold Allen. The other one he took a pretty bad beat down to. Calvin Kattar. But David Onama, fun. He's had some fantastic fights. Just had a really fun fight. And, you know, all heart against Roberto Romero. He also had a really fun one against Nate Landwehr. You got to love Nate the Train Landwehr. But he's on a 3-fight win streak now since taking that loss to Nate Landwehr. Just a fun fighter. Should be good. Can get messy with David Onama and Giga's sharp, nasty, fast kicks. Michel Pereira's back after taking a pretty bad beating to Anthony Hernandez against Abus Magomedov, who you assume is probably going to try to do the same thing. Randy Brown, Nicholas Dalby, Ikram Aliskerov is back. I think his last time out he got KO'd. Ikram Aliskerov is back against Andre Muniz. That's a pretty good fight. Ikram's a minus 550 favorite. Ooh. Andre Muniz is kind of nasty. He's just like your all-American classic. Nothing special, but just durable, always in it. Matt Schnell, Jimmy Flick. I love Jimmy Flick. Not the best in the world, but he's got sneaky subs. He'll jump flying triangles. I think his UFC debut, he jumped a flying triangle and fucking won. He's a bad fucking dude. I love me some Jimmy Flick. Let's see, anybody else that's calling my name? Damon Blackshear's on this card. Malcolm Wellmaker versus Cameron Simon. That's a good kind of young gun. Cameron slipped up a little bit, had a bad fight against Peyton Talbot. Malcolm Wellmaker coming off the Contender Series, a big fucking knockout. But Cameron Simon's pretty fucking skilled, pretty well-rounded. He's out of South Africa, same gym as Dricus du Plessis. Malcolm Wellmaker coming off the Contender Series. This will be his first time out. We got the Bay Poliana Viana back on this card. Should be a good one. Not a ton of names that you're like, holy shit, I got to see this card, but I think they're good matchups. We got a bunch of good matchups on this card, which is exciting. That brings us to, speaking of matchups, who is Ilia Topuria going to fight at International Fight Week? That is the question that we have to answer. It seems like there's two options here, and it feels like it's all hanging on this welterweight title fight against Belal Muhammad and Jack Della Maddalena that supposedly Islam is waiting for, hoping that his friend, for whatever reason, slips up so he can go take his belt, which I just think is fucking hilarious in the first place. And I don't think Islam is against fighting Belal Muhammad, to be fair, but it does seem funny that that's always the criticism, is like these two don't want to fight. You know, Belal and Islam, they train together, they're buddies, they don't want to fight. But Islam is also going to be like highly tuned into this welterweight fight, just praying to God that Belal loses so he can go get that second belt. Because he's not really a friend at that point, right? If he's sitting on the sideline hoping that you lose your belt, you might as well just fight. You should fight. And that's how I think it should be. Regardless of what happens, if Islam does want to move up, which I'm fine with, him at 170, there's a ton of fun matchups for him. I'm fine with that, but you got to be willing to fight either. You can't hope it's Jack Della Maddalena if you're going to sit and wait for this, because there's a massive fucking fight waiting for you, and it's International Fight Week, UFC 317. Ilia Topuria has been reported to be in. He's going to be fighting there. We just don't have an opponent yet. And everybody in the world is hoping it's Islam Makhachev, because that fight is massive. It's huge. Ilia Topuria, of course, a budding superstar coming off of two masterful knockouts, which have actually aged even better because we just saw Alexander Volkanovski get his belt back and how good he looked. Aged even better. That's the fight that the people want to see. More than we want to see Islam go to 170 and get a second belt. That's cool. Whatever. But Ilia Topuria, Islam Makhachev is a mega fight. It's a mega fight. And we may not get it, which is a tough part about it. But we do know we're getting Ilia Topuria at UFC 317, which at least is good, because there was a lot of worry over this last week of like, who the fuck is going to headline UFC 317? We heard Dricus du Plessis is out with an injury. Khamzat Chimaev. We thought Caio Borralho. We thought Nasruddin Imavov. But those don't really do it for me, I'll be honest with you. They don't do it. I love Caio. It doesn't do it. It's not International Fight Week material to have Khamzat Chimaev versus X for an interim belt, I suppose. I feel like it's even too soon for an interim belt for DDP. You know, one injury. Dude already fought this year. It's not like he hasn't fought this year. I'm glad that we're at least getting Ilia. I'm hoping we get Islam. But the other option is Charles Olivera, which is still a very fun fight. It's a fantastic fight. The stars are out. Charles Olivera is a massive star in his own right, which sucks because there's always going to be that what if. What if Islam and Ilia fought? How good, what would have happened? How good would that have been? Can Ilia really take on a guy like Islam with the wrestling pedigree, the size advantage that he has? Could he really do that? We'll never know if we get Charles Olivera, because that to me signifies that Islam is leaving the division. Ilia's made it very clear. He's not fighting for an interim belt, and he's not fighting for anything that's not the belt. So this is going to be a vacant title. If this comes true, and Charles Olivera is in this position, it is going to be for a vacant title. The second one that Charles Olivera has fought for in his career. First one being the vacant title that Khabib left after fighting Justin Gaethje. Now, the vacant title that Islam left. I don't want that what if. I'd rather just see the fight because it's a big fucking fight and it's super fun. And I'm sure that that's the fight that the UFC wants to make. If you're just looking at dollars and cents, Jack Della Maddalena versus Islam has about zero hype on it. Maybe you get some hype from the move up. How does he fare against a bigger guy? Maybe if Jack really puts on a clinic against Bilal Muhammad, who's got a similar style, that juice could heat up. The Bilal fight would be fun if they do end up going that route. If Islam says, fuck it, I'm fighting him. That's my belt at 170. I'm going to grab it. That fight would be fun. But Bilal's not a superstar. Even if he beats Jack Della Maddalena, he's a fucking massive favorite. He should. It's not that intriguing. You know what is? Islam Ilia, a fucking massive fight. A massive fight. So we're going to, over the next couple weeks, we're going to find out how that plays out. But more than anything, we just get to enjoy a fantastic fight in Kansas City this weekend. And I'm super excited about Carlos Prates, Ian Garry. Fantastic. Fan-freaking-tastic. And the NFL draft is this weekend, which I'm also jacked about. So that's all I got for you. That's Today in Combat. Peace, love. See you on the flip side.